All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday's talk. We're going to be chatting today about what you can do. It's part 2 from last week. What you can do to awaken your inner sleuth, your inner Sherlock Holmes as an agent. And I'm sure when you got into this business, you did not know that you were going to have to become a detective. But we are here to tell you that that is also a part of your job, among many other things. So good morning. I am welcoming Cindy and Doug with me this morning, two other members of our wonderful, wonderful, hardworking broker support team. If this is the first time that you're watching one of these lives, please know that your broker support team is here to help you with any questions that you have that are 411. Okay, we say 411 versus 911. If it's a 911 call the Dill Doctors. But if it's 411 and you just have general questions, need guidance, that's what your broker support team is here for. And so we're here today to chat about what does it mean to be an inner Sherlock Holmes? Like, how do we awaken our inner detective as a part of servicing our clients? And so the first thing that I'm going to do is Cindy or Doug, I'm going to kick out this question to you. What are some things that you do very specifically? We're going to talk about buyers first. If you have just gotten a new buyer, and you're starting the process of showings, okay? What are some things that you do in that process pre going under contract? What are some things that you can do or that you have done to do your due diligence as an agent? Research.
Cindy, you want to go? Ladies first.
Sure, Doug, thank you. I was going to wear my Sherlock Holmes hat, but
first of all, before we go any farther, does anybody really know Sherlock Holmes? Because this might be a young group that's listening this morning that really doesn't know. He is.
What are you saying, Doug?
I was looking for that video on Sherlock Holmes to be able to kind of show everybody that this guy wears a lot of hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tie that into what we do as real estate agents. We always talk about the fact that we wear a lot of hats.
Yes.
Yeah. Cindy.
It's one of our hats.
Cindy, hit it. I was interrupting.
Oh, no, not at all. Anytime, Doug. So when I have a new buyer, I want to be prepared. You know, when I go and meet them, I want to be able to give them something too, something to guide them. So what I do is, first of all, I'll print out the MLS sheets, know exactly what I'm talking about, kind of go through, see what's active in the neighborhood. So I am familiar with the house, the atmosphere, you know, the houses that have sold around it. And then I will print those out. I'll take that booklet, the wonderful booklet that 5 Star has on working with buyers. And it kind of goes through the process of purchasing and all that. So I have that. I put my card with that. I'll print out any disclosures on the houses that I'm showing. So when they ask things, I want to have the information, and, you know, like roof and things like that. But I'll give them a copy, and I put it in it. I buy those little, those inexpensive folders, 25 for like $5, you know, Target. And I'll put my business card in there, that booklet, the MLS sheets, and that way, and a 5 Star pen. And they can take notes as they're going through the houses, and that I mean, these days you have 15 minutes to look at a house, but I like to have, you know, I want to be professional, and that kind of helps me. They get my information as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, Doug.
Yeah.
What about you, Dougie?
I agree 100%. And I said, I do the same thing too. I always love to meet with people ahead of time. You know, talk about the wish list. What are some of those wants, needs, desires, some of those things that you're wanting us, because again, you kind of want to set the expectation. You also want to set the expectation on how you work. And Cindy, you said it best. This is how I work. These are the things that I bring. I do the same thing. On top of that, I always love to find out who's the buyer in all this. You know, so here we go with Sherlock Holmes, right? You got to zone in on who the buyer is, who's going to be actually doing the purchasing. Some of those important things that you want, and people are going to think more of you because you're asking those questions ahead of time.
Right.
And again, I love to be very, very prepared. Sure as anything, you're going to get to the very first house and someone's going to say, hey, that house down the road just sold too, didn't it, Doug? And if I don't know the answer to what they just asked me,
Right.
that's not good. So Cindy, what you do in preparation is perfect.
Right.
And I agree with that 100%.
And be on time for your appointments. Don't be late.
Nope.
Get there a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, one thing to think about too is it valuable to ahead of time any homes that you're looking at? And I know that things are going really, really quickly right now, but as much as you can prep ahead of time, have the disclosures, right?
Yeah.
Additionally, a really great thing that Tracy mentioned yesterday that I actually do, and I didn't know that anyone else did this, is I look at the past listing as well.
Yep.
The last time that
the
it sold,
detail.
I look at that, pulling the information of the property up on the BSNA, right? So there are a lot of different things that we can do, as Doug said, to make sure that we're prepared and able to answer any questions that pop up during that showing, right? So we can best advise our clients, because right now they have to make very, very quick decisions. And so the more prepared we are and with research and knowledge, the more that we can help them. And I sometimes even go as so far as to, I have RPR on my phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pull that property up on RPR. That's a really good way to quickly pull comps as well, right? So these are all little tools that you all can use to make sure that you're doing more than just showing up at that showing. Even with just the MLS sheet, there's more to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, we always talk about the value. What value do you bring?
Right.
That's exactly what you're talking about right now, you guys. That is a big piece of that. You got to believe with Zillow and all the technology that's in people's hands as they walk around, they know a lot about the property. And I've literally walked with buyers when they've said to each other, hey, this one sold last year for whatever. Boy, if you don't know that information, you better. You better. So.
And speaking of values, right? What are some things that you do to prep for writing an offer for a buyer? Anything additional? We just talked about pulling comps and being aware of that, but is there anything else that you do to best advise your buyer on writing an offer?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that loves to jump into the municipalities, and I will literally call to verify what's on that MLS sheet.
Yeah.
Don't take that to be gospel. So if you're looking at a well and septic or public utilities, just verify that.
Right.
I had an agent that called me yesterday and said, man, everything on this sheet's wrong. I said, well, that probably would be a good first step then. Let's figure that out first. So those are some of the
verify assessments. You don't know.
Yes.
I mean, I just had one.
Yep.
Actually, Star Title does a phenomenal job.
Yes, they do.
On getting information and working with us agents too, because I just had one. I mean, that's like what Doug was saying with the BSNA. It's important, assessments. They're, if you're not familiar with them, you want to get familiar with them, because there's assessments on the property. You don't want to get to a closing and find out, or get that closing document and find out that the seller had a $5,000 assessment and now the buyer is going to be responsible. You want to know, is it in the taxes when it's paid off?
Right.
That's when, like Marissa was saying, you're talking about your inner Sherlock. You really want to do well for your client.
You bet. Yep.
Absolutely. And to plug Star Title, we're going to jump a little bit because I know we're specifically talking about buyers, but if you're representing the seller, I coach my team on this all of the time. If you are representing the seller, after that very first appointment that you have, email Star Title and ask for pre-list title. And all that they need is the address. That's all that they need. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And you are armed as a listing agent with information to be able to best help that seller, right? Because sellers a lot of times don't know, I didn't know, or I forgot there was a lien on the house, right? If they purchased it cash, this happens a lot in Kalamazoo because people purchase like tax properties cash, and it ignores all the liens, right? You purchase that property as is with liens. I cut my teeth in this business in my first year dealing with title problems because listing agents weren't doing their due diligence before listing a property. So we have an in-house title company, y'all, that can quickly pull title for you. So just want to plug that. I know we hadn't talked about sellers yet, but
well, and
just
again,
want you
to
know that's
your
a
point,
resource.
yeah, to your point on that, Marissa, it also shows who's able to sign as the seller,
Exactly.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Exactly.
you want to make sure you're talking to the seller and not that, oh my gosh, his brother up in Traverse City owns
There it is.
that house, and
Mhm.
they all need to make sure they're on the same page.
So a lot of little wonky stuff, right? So Cindy and I were talking about if if it's a divorced couple, what does that settlement say?
Yeah.
Right?
You need a
the other
judgment
thing-
of divorce.
Yes, exactly. What does the pre-list title say about what the mortgage balance is? Have you all went to a listing appointment and people think the mortgage balance is one thing and it's actually something else?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They didn't realize that a second mortgage was actually a lien on the property too.
There it
Anything
is.
that's outstanding on that property has to be closed or paid at closing. That's
And that is
including
our
estimates.
job. That is our job to find that out, do our research, do our due diligence, be detectives, right? So let's go back to buyers really quick. Home inspections. How do you prep for a home inspection or during a home inspection? What is some research, detective work that we can do to serve our clients in the home inspection process? Doug, you want to go?
Sure. I'm not really sure when you talk about the question of home
Yes.
inspections. I always talk to my buyers about the importance of a home inspection, how that works. Yes, I want you there during the inspection to listen and to walk with the inspector.
Right.
Again, I kind of set the stage before the actual inspection as to how that's going to go, right? So by the end of the inspection, when I show up with 20 minutes left to go in the inspection, and we're all in the kitchen, we're all having that follow-up questions and answers at the end. There's really a good feeling that, hey, they got to know the house. They spent the necessary time with the inspector. We're feeling really good about this, or man, there's some things, some challenges here that we really need to look at. So those are kind of the things that for me are really, really important, kind of in terms of setting expectations. Here's how the home inspection is going to work.
Right.
Here's what it looks like at the end. And again, if there's things that we're either happy with or not happy with, we can certainly address those at the end. So
Sure.
I don't know if I'm.
Plus, I go through and I kind of talk about the different inspections, because you can have home, pest, radon, you could have a sewer scope.
Yep.
If the home, with what Marissa's saying about buyers, there's some municipalities that there's what they call point of sale. So you want to find out who pays for the well and septic, all that. But, all those different tests that can be done. And so they're familiar.
Exactly.
And they can, have them find out how much those costs and all that. So.
And even knowing sometimes it's as simple as, going the extra mile. Cause I feel like that's a part of the dig deep process for us. Go the extra mile. So if you all have a home inspection and the inspector says, so this plumbing, right? Or the roof, I don't know. Have another additional contractor go out there, right? That's a part of digging deep and our clients are trusting us to guide them in that process.
Given them resources to, having a list of resources for them to contact and get a second opinion if they're not comfortable with what they heard. For sure.
Exactly. So I have a question about Doug, you spoke a little bit about calling the municipality. Cindy, you also mentioned this as well. What are some other situations that would prompt you, just throwing this out there, especially for newer agents, if they're asking themselves, they're listening to us talk right now and they're asking themselves, okay, so when am I supposed to call? Like, when are the appropriate times for me to call the assessor's office to get information? If you guys can just give us a few examples.
Well, I can give you an example I'm working on right now. I had a buyer, we got an accepted offer,
Mhm.
and they countered back that the buyer would be responsible for any assumable assessments. And I thought, well, that right there triggered me like, okay, that means there's an assessment or something. So immediately I get on the BSNA, I couldn't find anything, but I called the drain commissioner. Actually happened to be a county here near Lansing. And unfortunately, he's out, and he's out for like 5 days. And I'm like, okay, I need to get this information. I can't wait 5 days. And there was no one else that could do it.
Mhm.
So again, that's where you utilize the title company, or you, if you can't find it on the BSNA. And so I'm digging to find out, because I want to make sure it's in the taxes, and the buyer's not going to have a bill for,
Right.
get to closing for 2,000 or 3,000. So it's just a matter of,
Yep.
and it's kind of, it helps you learn, especially if you're a newer
Mm.
agent. That's how I learned.
Same.
I called. I'm not afraid to ask the questions, even though they may be silly.
Right.
But I think what you just said is something that many agents are a little apprehensive about doing.
Mhm.
Well, who can I call, and should I call them? And what I tell people, absolutely 100% of the time, you have the ability to call any and all questions.
Yes.
Even sometimes before I go to a listing, I'm
Mhm.
calling the municipality just to make sure I'm walking into what I think I'm walking into,
Right.
right? And how often do we see that go the other way? Sometimes we don't call. We
Right.
walk in and we're thinking, oh my gosh, had I asked the necessary questions before I got there? Yeah, so again, big time, ask as many questions to whomever you need to ask ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Or as soon as it comes up, so.
The BSNA also, we've mentioned this a few times. I studied the BSNA when I first got into the business, because I realized that there is so much valuable information. So if you're a newer agent and you hear us referencing BSNA and you don't know what we're talking about, all you have to do is Google BS and the what's this sign called? Ampersand?
I know, I don't know.
Or an at, the at
The and-
sign.
It's
The
the
and
squiggly
sign?
thing. It's the squiggly.
I'm doing this with my fingers. With an S, BS and A, and just Google that. And with just try any county, right? And that'll take you to a website where it will pull up any information that you want to know about any property, right? You can verify tax ID / parcel number. You can verify square footage. That's a biggie, right? Is the square footage that was input into the MLS correct based on what the county records say? If you're buying a rental property, if you have an investor, right? City certifications are on the BSNA. If there was any work permits that were pulled for work that was done, if you go see a property and it looks like they did an addition, or they mentioned in their marketing remarks that they did an addition, right? Did they pull permits?
Yeah.
Right? So this is all information that you can pull from that website, verifying taxes. There have been times, has this happened to you all, where it says one thing on the listing of what the taxes are, and then you go on the city website and the taxes are different?
Oh yeah, some of them put just summer or winter. They don't realize
Mhm.
there's both. They're added together.
Exactly. And that's a big deal, because that can affect your buyer's payments.
Yep.
Right?
For
So it is our job to do our due diligence with honestly, with every single aspect. Ask yourself, are there questions I don't know the answer to?
Yep.
Right? If you're wondering where to start, where do I start my research? Is there anything I don't know? Do I know everything about this property that I need to before my buyer decides to write an offer on it? And if the answer to that is no, then you have to do some digging. And obviously it's the same thing. I think even more so when you're representing a seller, right?
Yep.
What are some things that you all do in addition to what we've already mentioned? If you have a listing and you want to do some research, what do you do?
Yeah, well, pre-title for one thing, that's going to help you right from the beginning. Plus you want to be, well, obviously the CMA before you list it and everything, but then you want to find out who owns the property? Can they sign? Is it in a trust? If it's in a trust, do you have a copy of that trust that the
That's
title
fabulous.
company can review? You can, other things I've done, I've called the Register of Deeds. You get familiar with your resources but if it's, there's different kind of trust. So you can call one of the, I called the state bar because I had
wow.
to find out somebody that could handle, it was called I wrote it down because I couldn't, it was a discretionary
Oh,
will.
wow. Okay.
And, so there's all different, you learn things as you go. I mean,
Yes.
you do, and it kind of helps you be able to solve problems. And we want to be a problem solver. We want our clients to look at us for the resource and problem solving.
Exactly. And like Kim says, we want to be the hero, right?
Yeah.
And like
I want
Greg
to be a
says,
hero.
we want to provide value. Doug, you just said that too. Like what are we doing to provide value and to advocate? Doug, do you have anything that you do specifically for listings and additionally?
A lot of what Cindy just mentioned, I do. I'm one of those guys that like to know what I'm walking into. So I ask questions sometimes on the phone before I get there. Well, what do you think the property's worth? How much do you owe on the property? I mean, people say, well, you ask them those questions ahead of time. I said 100% of the time,
Absolutely.
because you got to know what you're going to walk into, right? And sometimes, as we all mentioned in this call, people don't know sometimes they don't know that second mortgage that they took out a while back to cover whatever is now connected to the house. So I have to pay that off as well. So the more prepared, the more questions you can ask, whether it's pre-appointment or whether it's face-to-face at the very first appointment, you've got to be the professional. You got to ask that same series of questions. Maybe it sounds redundant that I ask the same questions to every seller, but I just do because my need to know is pretty high. I do know.
That's a good way to put it.
Plus, it's a system. You get the information and you can teach it. You can show somebody else how to do it. So.
And Cindy, you mentioned system. Yes.
Be that student, be that guy or that gal that's going to ask the right questions, ask them every time. So again, there are a lot of what I'll call they're just planned questions. I ask the same questions every time because I want a response. I want to know what I'm getting into. And I know we all feel better prepared.
Yes.
When we have more information up front.
Yes. And thank you for lifting that up. Because I was just going to say, as we wrap up, what are some lasting words and impressions that you would like to leave with everyone? And Doug, that's a really, really great one is, what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure that you are prepared, right?
Yep.
Cindy, you mentioned systems. Have something that you do every single time so that there's never a time that you're forgetting because you do the same thing every single time, right?
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Really, don't be afraid. Pick up the phone, call. They're a person too, so you can call them and try to get as much information as you can.
When I say planned response questions, that's what they are. Right?
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Awesome. So my last word would be just to kind of wrap up everything that we talked about. Make sure that as an agent that you are active, you are engaged, and you are doing your research because this profession, this job, people are hiring us because they trust us as professionals. We want to be prepared. Preparation, as Doug said, right? Preparation leads to success. So we want to make sure that we're prepared. And whatever that means, make sure that you're doing your due diligence, you're asking the right questions, you're using your resources in Star Title, in your broker support team, calling your municipalities. Just make sure that you are doing your due diligence at all times. And that's what it means to unlock your inner sleuth. I was going to try and pull up a picture of Sherlock Holmes hat.
I have a hat. I'm so mad. I forgot it.
But I didn't get a chance to. But if you're an agent out there and you heard us chatting today and you have any questions about anything that we said, you marinate on it afterwards and you go, Cindy said something about, divorce settlement paper. What does that mean? Call us. That is what we are here for, because the more informed you are, the better you are as an agent and for your clients. So thank you all so much. Doug and Cindy, you guys are awesome.
Thank you,
it's so
Marissa.
fun to lead these. This is my first one leading. It's so fun, you guys. I appreciate you all. And thank you to the agent community for continuing to be awesome 5-star agents. And I do have to do a couple of plugs. Make sure if you are not signed up for social media boot camp at the end of this month, please sign up for that and register. And if you are not registered for Ninja, come on, y'all. We just talked about systems, okay? Sign up for Ninja as well. And that's what I'm going to leave everyone with today. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday. The sun is out. Go sell some real estate, and we will see you all next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Marissa. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Marissa. See you later, Doug.
Great job. See you too.